Something's been bothering me about the Mandalorian known as Din Djarin ever since the Mandalorian Season 1 came out. Not him per se, but how he was raised. I've done other videos on how he's wearing, the Mandalorian who rescued him, he's wearing his armor. I'll link that video in the description below. But this is all about how his covert has been treating him. Hence that maybe his covert isn't as Mandalorian as they seem. But please hear me out before you judge me. This isn't going to be a theory video. This is just a discussion video with some friendly debate. Hi, welcome back everybody. I'm Gerald and I'm a Star Wars fanatic. And you can be a Star Wars fanatic too. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, join as a member, or join my Patreon page as a patron. Subscribing is absolutely free and there's no commitment to stay if you don't like what you're watching. Also, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. I will pick one comment that highlights the best of the best and I will display it at the end of the next video, just as I'm about to do at the end of this video. So stick around, see who won the comment of the day. Okay, with all that said, let's get on with today's topic. Like I said in the beginning, something has been striking me as odd about Din Djarin's covert. It has been ever since The Mandalorian Season 1. Now that Din Djarin is going to be working with Boba Fett, it makes me question it even more. First question is this. We are all citizens of one nation or another in our own real world. We know who the leaders of our nations are. We also know the process in which these leaders took to become the heads of state. Long processes that took years to accomplish. Campaigning, advertising, and winning elections, for the most part at least. It isn't a perfect system, but we all know our system and how it operates at a basic function. Okay, back to the Children of the Watch and Din Djarin. Why is it that this 40-year-old man doesn't know what the Darksaber is, what it means, or any of the implications that come with wielding it? Remember, Din Djarin isn't a child being raised anymore. He's a full-grown adult man with a mustache.
He was a man. He had a beard.
And it seems the Darksaber is very important to Mandalorian societal structure. He or she who wields the blade rules the kingdom type of thing, kind of like Excalibur. Mandalorians have fought and died over this blade. Mandalorians went to war over leadership. So why is it Din Djarin has no clue as to what it even is or what it's for? We could chalk it up as Mando being naive, but that isn't it at all. He was rescued by a man from Death Watch when he was a child. Who knows more about the Darksaber than members of House Vizsla? But there is the fact that the Armorer and Paz Vizsla know all about the blade and offer the information freely when asked about it. They didn't hesitate nor hold back. They act like, oh yeah, we didn't tell you about that thing that's so important to our structure? We must have forgot. That made it more awkward for me than if they would have denied any knowledge of it altogether. Think about it. The Darksaber is pretty crucial to Mandalorians. Even Sabine Wren knew what it was, and her family was removed from Death Watch before she was born. She even knew that Maul was the last to own it and technically ruled Mandalore. And her parents didn't even carry the name of Vizsla. But it could be said that Sabine's family was still connected to Mandalorian society at the time. This is true. But the fact remains, there are people in Din Djarin's covert that know what the Darksaber is. High-ranking people. Why doesn't he? Okay, that's the first discussion topic, and both of these will culminate with what I consider my opinion at the end. Not that it matters to a hill of beans, and I know that. I'm just a guy. Now, staying with the Mandalorian known as Din Djarin. He's roughly 40 years old during the time we were watching in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. The actor who played Din Djarin as a child was 11 years old at the time The Mandalorian Season 1 was released. But we'll put him at 10 because of filming and post-production. So Din Djarin was roughly 10 years old during the Clone Wars. Like I mentioned earlier, the Mandalorian who saved him was a member of Death Watch, or at least House Vizsla. He wore the House Vizsla signet. He may have even been a Vizsla, but that would be speculation on my part. Still with me? Okay, 10 years old during the time of the Separatist invasion of his home and being rescued by Death Watch. That would put him at least 11 to 12 years old at the end of the Clone Wars. Now, if we judge at how free-roaming Mandalorians were during Star Wars Rebels, which ended roughly 1 year before the Battle of Yavin, or BBY for short, Mandalore was still mostly intact. And there was no mention of a purge or a Night of 1,000 Tears before The Mandalorian. In fact, we know it was after the events of the Mandalorian arcs in Star Wars Rebels, because the Purge of Mandalore is when Bo-Katan Kryze lost the Darksaber. I know this is a lot to take in, and I'm getting to my point, I promise. Let's say the Night of 1,000 Tears, or the Purge of Mandalore if you prefer, happened during the Battle of Yavin, or even just before. But I'd presume it happened after Return of the Jedi, but again, that's speculation, so I won't go there. So we will stick with the Yavin timeline. The Battle of Yavin happened roughly 19 years after Order 66, which signified the end of the Clone Wars at that time. At the end of the Clone Wars, I already stated that Din Djarin was a minimum 11 years old. Add 19 years to that for the Battle of Yavin and the Night of 1,000 Tears. That puts Din Djarin at a minimum of 30 years old during that time. Add 5 years to the end of Return of the Jedi, then add another 5 years to the beginning of The Mandalorian, and we have a 40-year-old Din Djarin. But let's look back 10 years. Din Djarin was 30 years old when the Purge of Mandalore happened, presumably. Why didn't he know about it when it happened? Why is he being told 10 years later what happened? Intrigued yet? Well, let's say he was kept in the dark about it. But why was he kept in the dark about it? The Armorer knew about it. Paz Vizsla knew about it. Din Djarin was well beyond the age of a new foundling. Okay, he's kept in the dark. Cool. But directly following the event, all Mandalorian survivors scattered from their natural homes in a hurried panic. I think it's safe to assume that since we have seen what decimation does in our own planet in creating refugees, it would be safe to say that the same thing would happen to Mandalorians. So I have to ask, what were the reasons given to Din Djarin when he questioned why they are leaving in such a hurry? I mean, I'd question it, and I'm sure any of you would question it if your father came up, or mother, or head of house, or whoever came up and said, we got to leave right now, grab nothing, just go. What reason was given to him when he, as an adult, saw Mandalorians flourishing out in the open and suddenly their secrecy became their safety? They went from being the greatest non-Jedi warriors in the galaxy to hiding in the sewers. Why does Din Djarin not know why? Even Boba Fett knew why, and he was disjointed from the Mandalorian society. Sure, he traveled the galaxy a lot, and I'm sure Din Djarin did too. I'm sure once hiding in the sewers, it wasn't his first time becoming a bounty hunter. He seemed pretty proficient at it. Surely the entire galaxy had heard of it and talked about it. Surely Din Djarin would have heard whispers in the guild or any of the other cantinas he had frequented. There is a sign that he knew something happened, but he didn't know exactly what. Why not? Now, I'm not calling this a flaw in the writing process. That's beyond me. Just drawing attention to it for this discussion. Din Djarin has become one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but this seems to be a big flaw in his character. Did he just not ask about these things? Did he just follow the covert blindly? Did he never wonder about the Mandalorian leadership? And it isn't like they figured the leadership was over because of the Night of 1,000 Tears and didn't tell him about it. He was at least 30 years old when it happened. He would have remembered who was in charge. He would have known the name Bo-Katan Kryze before accidentally meeting her, and he wouldn't have had to ask about the Darksaber, the Purge of Mandalore, nor Bo-Katan Kryze from the Armorer. Yet he asks nothing about Boba Fett, the one person he may not have heard of prior to their meeting, which raises another question. For being the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, why does no one seem to know of his legacy? Especially Din Djarin, who is a bounty hunter. Let's not forget, he has no idea who the Jedi are either. I know this is going to make a lot of fans defensive, especially newer fans brought on board by The Mandalorian. You guys love Din Djarin, and so do I. I just have questions. But it isn't meant to upset you guys. It's meant to be a lighthearted discussion as to why he seems to have amnesia. That is the only answer I have for all these inconsistencies. Amnesia. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and try to keep it civil. Civil debate's great, and this is Star Wars. It's supposed to be fun. How could it not be fun? But I might be a naive person with too much positivity flowing from me. Nah, I get upset sometimes too, but I try not to resort to name calling. I'll never put anyone down for their opinions nor beliefs. Sorry, I got sidetracked again. Stupid ADHD. Leave a comment below and I'll pick the best one to highlight in my next video, just as I'm about to do now from my last video. So now I'd like to highlight that comment. The comment comes from Star Wars 95, and he has this to say about friendly debates. Exactly. That's what makes it great here. We all get to share our theories and swap insights and ideas, even if they're our own opinions and could be wrong. Plus, it's respectful. I love a good debate, though. Not a fight, a debate. That is absolutely true. I started this channel to be a positive light in the dark tunnel that seemed to be the Star Wars fandom at the time. I encourage debate. I even get involved in it sometimes. It helps form ideas and give perspectives that we may not have considered before. But when it comes to personal attacks, that's when I stop engaging. So, Star Wars 95, you're absolutely right. That's what this channel is all about. Thank you for that. And thank you all for the great comments. For the most part, everyone has been really respectful, and I'm loving it. This is Gerald from Star Wars Fanatic, signing off and wishing you all great health and happiness. Until next time, remember, this is the way, the only way.